The trading station floated in the darkness of space like a massive wheel of light. Meridian Point served as neutral ground where aliens from across the galaxy came to do business. Inside its metal corridors, creatures of every shape and size walked past each other, some on 2 legs, some on 6, and some floating in specialized atmosphere suits. Commander Lisa Grant stepped off the Earth transport ship and took in the sight. She had been to Meridian Point 3 times before, but it never stopped being strange. Her security team followed close behind, their boots clicking on the metal floor in perfect rhythm. They wore simple blue uniforms with the Earth insignia on their shoulders. Nothing fancy or threatening. The Velcaran delegation waited in the main hall. Lisa spotted them immediately because they were hard to miss. Each warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in dark plates that looked like armor but were actually part of their skin. They had 4 arms, each ending in clawed hands that could probably tear through steel. Their faces were angular and sharp, with multiple eyes that glowed a faint red in the station's artificial light. At the center of the group stood War Prince Dexel. He was larger than the others, with gold markings etched into his chest plates. Those markings told the story of his victories in battle. Lisa had studied Velcaran culture before coming here. She knew that Dexel had conquered 12 worlds for his empire. He was a legend among his people, and he clearly knew it. Commander Grant, Lexel said, his voice deep and rumbling. The translator device on his chest turned his words into English. Welcome to Meridian Point. We are pleased to finally meet the representatives of Earth. Lisa walked forward and extended her hand. It was a human gesture, but most species in the galaxy had learned what it meant by now. Vexel looked at her hand for a moment, then wrapped one of his large claws around it carefully. His grip was strong but controlled. He did not want to hurt her, which Lisa found almost amusing. She had dealt with far worse than a strong handshake. Thank you for hosting these negotiations, War Prince, Lisa said. Earth is eager to establish trade relations with the Velcaran Empire. Of course, Vexel replied. He released her hand and gestured toward a large doorway. Please, join us for the ceremonial feast. We have much to discuss. The feast hall was impressive. Long tables stretched across the room, covered with food from dozens of different worlds. Some of the dishes looked edible to human eyes. Others looked like they might try to eat you back. Lisa and her team sat at one end of the main table while the Velcaran warriors filled the other seats. As servers brought out more food, Vexel began to speak. This was tradition among the Before any serious business, warriors shared stories of their greatest battles and hunts. It was a way of establishing respect and hierarchy. I shall tell you of the Rendax, Vexel announced, his voice carrying across the hall. The other aliens in the room stopped their conversations to listen. They are the apex predators of Kelta Prime, a world of endless forests and dark mountains. The Rendax hunt in packs of 20 or more. They stand twice the height of a human, with teeth like daggers and claws that can cut through stone. He paused to take a drink from a large metal cup. But their most dangerous feature is their ability to sense electromagnetic fields. They can detect the beating of your heart from half a mile away. They know where you are before you know where they are. Many warriors have died trying to hunt them. The aliens at the table made sounds of approval and fear. Lisa noticed that some of them had stopped eating, caught up in the story. I was sent to Kelta Prime with a team of 50 warriors, Lexel continued. Our mission was to clear a valley so the Empire could build a settlement. We tracked a Rendax pack for 3 days through terrain that would kill most species. The rain never stopped. The ground tried to swallow our feet with every step, and the Rendax watched us the whole time, waiting for us to make a mistake. One of the other Velcaran warriors leaned forward. Tell them about the ambush, my prince. Nexel's eyes seemed to glow brighter. On the 3rd night, they attacked. The Rendax came from all sides at once, moving through the darkness like shadows with teeth. We lost 15 warriors in the first minute, but we held our ground. We fought back with every weapon we had. The battle lasted until dawn, and when it was over, we had killed the entire pack. He lifted his cup high. That is what it means to be We do not run from the greatest predators in the galaxy. We face them, and we survive. The aliens in the hall erupted in cheers and applause. Even some of Lisa's team looked impressed. But Lisa just took a sip of her water and waited. Lexel then shared another story, this one about the Shadow Stalkers of Varium. These creatures could shift partially out of normal space, becoming almost invisible and intangible. Hunting them required special equipment and nerves of steel. Again, Lexel described a brutal fight where he and his warriors emerged, victorious but bloodied. More stories followed from other Velcaran warriors. Each tale featured creatures that sounded absolutely terrifying. Acid-spitting serpents, flying predators with wingspans of 30 feet, burrowing monsters that could sense vibrations through solid rock. The Velcarin had fought them all and won. Finally, after the 5th or 6th story, Daxel turned his attention to Lisa. His expression changed to something that might have been curiosity mixed with condescension, the way an adult might look at a child who claimed to be strong. "And what of Earth, Commander Grant?" he asked. The hall grew quiet. "Surely your world has produced predators worthy of mention. What terrors lurk on your home planet?" Lisa set down her glass slowly. She could feel her team getting tense beside her. They knew what was coming. They had talked about this moment during the flight to Meridian Point. "Oh, we have predators on Earth," she said, her voice calm and even. "Plenty of them, actually." "I would very much like to hear about them," Lexel said. There was an edge to his voice now, a challenge. "You humans seem so delicate, so vulnerable. I find it hard to imagine what kind of predators could threaten you." Several Velcarin warriors chuckled at this. Lisa noticed that some of the other aliens in the hall were watching with great interest. The small human commander sitting across from the mighty war. It probably looked like a joke to them. Lisa smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made smart people nervous because it meant you knew something they did not. "The ones you would encounter first," she said quietly, "are actually the friendly ones." The hall erupted in laughter. The Velcarin warriors slapped the table with their claws, finding her statement hilarious. Even some of the other aliens joined in, though a few of the more perceptive species looked uncertain. Dexel laughed the loudest. "Friendly ones. Oh, Commander, you have quite the sense of humor. Perhaps humans survived through comedy rather than combat." Lisa did not stop smiling. She just looked at Dexel with those calm human eyes and waited for the laughter to die down. "You doubt me," she said when the hall grew quiet again. "That is understandable. You have conquered many worlds and faced many dangers. But I stand by my statement. The predators you would meet first on Earth are the friendly ones, the ones we have learned to live with, the ones we consider normal." Vexor leaned back in his chair, his multiple eyes studying her carefully. He was trying to decide if she was serious or still joking. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we should test this claim." The proposal came 3 days later in the formal negotiation room. War Prince Dexel stood before a holographic display showing trade routes and resource agreements. But his mind clearly was not on business anymore. He kept glancing at Lisa with what she recognized as wounded pride. "I have a proposition," Commander Grant, Lexel said, interrupting a discussion about mineral rights. "An exchange program of sorts. I will send my finest warriors to your Earth. They will undergo survival training on your world, face these predators you speak of, and prove that Velcarin's superiority extends even to your home planet." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "If my warriors succeed in surviving your so-called dangerous world for one full cycle of your moon, the trade terms will favor the Velcarin Empire significantly. If they fail, the terms will favor Earth instead." Lisa's chief negotiator, a man named Peter Hughes, immediately started to object. This was not standard diplomatic procedure, but Lisa raised her hand to silence him. "I accept," she said simply. Vexel's eyes widened slightly. He had clearly expected her to refuse or at least to negotiate the terms. "You accept?" Just like that, Lisa confirmed. "But I have 2 conditions. First, your warriors must be accompanied by observers who will document everything. Second, they must follow the instructions of their Earth guides at all times. Not for their safety, you understand, but for legal reasons. Earth has laws about disturbing wildlife." Several Velcarin warriors made sounds that translated as scoffs. The idea that they needed protection from Earth wildlife struck them as ridiculous. "Agreed," Daxel said. "I will send Champion Krell and a squad of 5 warriors. They are veterans of 15 campaigns each. If anyone can prove Earth is not as dangerous as you claim, it is them." "Perfect," Lisa said, and her smile returned. Peter looked at her like she had lost her mind, but she ignored him. "We will make all the necessary arrangements." 6 weeks passed. Lisa spent that time making sure everything was ready. She coordinated with wildlife experts, rangers, and survival specialists across Earth. She also watched the Velcarin propaganda, BROADCASTS, that showed their warriors preparing for the mission. They treated it like a vacation, a simple training exercise on a backwater planet. The Velcarin transport ship landed in the Australian outback on a clear morning. The location had been chosen carefully. Champion Krell emerged first, his armor plates gleaming in the harsh sunlight. He was followed by 5 warriors, each carrying weapons and scanning equipment. They looked around at the red dirt and sparse vegetation with obvious disappointment. "This is your dangerous world," Krell asked in his rumbling voice. It looks dead. Jake Morrison was waiting for them next to a dusty truck. He was tall and lean, with sun-darkened skin and light hair bleached even lighter by years under the Australian sun. He wore shorts, a simple shirt, and boots that had seen better days. Compared to the armored warriors, he looked completely unprepared for anything. "G'day," Jake said cheerfully. "Welcome to Australia. I'm your guide for this little adventure. You can call me Jake." Krell looked down at the human with barely concealed contempt. "You are a warrior." "Ranger," Jake corrected. "I help manage wildlife and run survival courses. Been doing it for about 20 years now." "You look soft," one of the Velkarin warriors said. Jake just shrugged. "Probably, but I'm still alive, which is what counts out here. Now, let's get your gear checked before we head to base camp." The Velkarin unloaded their equipment while Jake walked around inspecting everything with a critical eye. He made them remove several items, explaining that certain technologies might interfere with local wildlife or violate environmental protection laws. "Right," Jake said once everything was sorted. "Before we head out, I need to check your camping gear for hitchhike." Krell asked. "Spiders, mostly," Jake replied casually, shaking out a sleeping bag. "Sydney funnel web spiders love dark spaces. Their venom can kill a grown human in about 15 minutes if you don't get treatment. Very aggressive too. They rear up when threatened and strike multiple times." He said this the way someone might mention rain in the forecast. The Velkarin warriors exchanged glances. One of them pulled up information on their datapad. "This says funnel web spiders are small," the warrior said. "No bigger than your human hand." "Yep," Jake confirmed. "Also watch out for redback spiders. Much smaller, about the size of your thumb, but their venom is nasty. And brown snakes like to come out in the morning warmth, so check your boots before you put them on. They're quite venomous. Most venomous land snake on the planet, actually, if we're talking about the inland taipan." Krell's mandibles clicked in what might have been annoyance. "We have encountered venomous creatures on many worlds. These are not a concern." Sure, Jake said agreeably. "Just mentioning it. Oh, and if you see a blue-ringed octopus at any water source, do not touch it. Tiny thing, beautiful colors, will kill you dead in minutes. No antivenom exists." He started loading gear into the truck while the Velkarin stood there processing this information. They had expected large, dangerous predators, things they could fight with honor. Instead, they were being warned about creatures smaller than their smallest claw. The drive to base camp took 3 hours over rough terrain. Jake pointed out various landmarks and occasionally mentioned things to avoid. The list grew concerning. "That's a nest of bull ants. Sting like hell and they're aggressive. Those are jimpy plants. Do not touch them under any circumstance. The sting can last for months and has driven people to madness. That waterhole probably has saltwater crocodiles, so no swimming. They grow up to 20 feet long and can bite with more force than your Rendax creatures, I'd wager." By the time they reached camp, the Velkarin were starting to look less confident. The base camp was simple, just a few tents and a fire pit in a clearing. No walls, no force fields, nothing between them and whatever was out there in the darkness. "All right," Jake said as the sun began to set. "Let's get your tents set up. Make sure to seal them tight. You don't want anything crawling in during the night." "We do not fear small creatures," Krell stated firmly. "No one said anything about fear," Jake replied. "It's just common sense. Now, who wants to help me gather firewood, watch for snakes in the woodpile?" That first night passed quietly. The Velkarin took turns on watch, their sophisticated sensors scanning the area for threats. They detected various small animals moving through the bush, but nothing that seemed dangerous. Then, around midnight, one of the warriors on watch made a sound that translated roughly as a scream. Everyone rushed out of their tents. The warrior was standing frozen, staring down at his chest. Sitting there, perfectly still, was a spider the size of a dinner plate. Its thick legs gripped the warrior's armor plating, and its multiple eyes reflected the FIRELIGHT. Jake emerged from his tent with a flashlight. He took one look and laughed. "Oh, that's just a huntsman. They're completely harmless. Well, mostly harmless. They can bite if you really annoy them, but they're not venomous to humans. They actually eat the dangerous spiders, so we like having them around." "Remove it," the warrior said, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. Jake walked over and gently scooped the spider into his hands. It was so large that its legs hung over the sides of his palms. "There you go, mate," he said to the spider. "You're scaring our guests." He walked a few feet away and set it down on a tree. The spider scurried up into the branches and disappeared. "That," Jake said, turning back to the stunned Velkarin, "is what we call a friendly one. It eats the actually dangerous stuff. Like I said, We like having them around. Krell stared at Jake for a long moment. Then he looked at his warriors, who all looked back at him with uncertainty in their eyes. These were soldiers who had faced down charging megafauna and fought in zero-gravity combat. But the idea of sleeping in tents where dinner plate-sized spiders might crawl in was clearly disturbing them. How? Krell asked slowly. Do you people sleep at night? Jake shrugged. You get used to it. I've had huntsmen living in my house for years. They're good roommates. Quiet, eat the bugs, never complain about the dishes. He yawned and stretched. Anyway, try to get some rest. Tomorrow we're going to the coast. You'll love it. Beautiful beaches, warm water, and only a few things that can kill you if you're not careful. Should be fun. As Jake walked back to his tent, the Velcarin warriors looked at each other in the firelight. For the first time since arriving on Earth, they were starting to understand that maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated this planet and the creatures who called it home. The coast of Queensland looked like paradise. Clear blue water stretched to the horizon under a bright sun. White sand beaches curved along the shoreline, and palm trees swayed in the warm breeze. The Velcarin warriors stood at the edge of the water, their armor plates reflecting the sunlight. After 3 days in the outback, this seemed like a pleasant change. Finally, Krell said, a location that does not seem designed to kill us. Jake was setting up a shelter near the beach, but he paused at that comment. Oh, this place can definitely kill you. Probably faster than the outback, actually. You've just got more ways to die here. One of the Velcarin warriors, whose name translated to something like Swift Blade, gestured at the peaceful water. What danger could possibly exist in such calm seas? Where do I start? Jake replied, pulling out a laminated card with pictures on it. Box jellyfish season is mostly over, but you might still encounter a few. They're nearly invisible in the water, and their tentacles can be several feet long. The venom causes such extreme pain that people have drowned because they couldn't swim back to shore. Death can occur within minutes if you get stung badly enough. He pointed to another picture. Then you've got the Irukandji jellyfish. Much smaller, about the size of your fingernail, so even harder to see. The sting might not hurt much at first, but then comes Irukandji syndrome. Severe pain throughout your whole body, nausea, vomiting, and a sense of impending doom so strong that victims have begged doctors to kill them. Oh, and sometimes it causes brain hemorrhages. The warriors leaned in to look at the tiny creature in the picture. Something that small should not be capable of such horror. Blue-ringed octopus lives in the shallows here, Jake continued. Beautiful little thing, fits in your palm. Bite is painless, so you might not even know it happened. Then the paralysis starts. Full body paralysis, but you stay conscious. You can't breathe on your own, so you suffocate while being fully aware of what's happening. No antivenom. Swiftblade backed away from the water's edge. And humans swim here willingly. Sure, Jake said. You just have to know what you're doing. Stay inside the stinger nets where they put them up. Don't touch anything that looks pretty. Check where you're putting your hands and feet. Basic stuff. Basic stuff, Krell repeated, his tone making it clear what he thought of that assessment. They spent the morning learning about marine dangers. Jake showed them pictures of cone snails, textile cone snails in particular, whose venom could kill within hours. He pointed out stonefish buried in the sand near the shore, explaining that they were the most venomous fish on the planet. Stepping on one would result in extreme pain and potentially death. What about the larger predators? Krell asked. Surely not everything here is small and venomous. Oh right, Jake said. Saltwater crocodiles come into the ocean here sometimes. They're the largest living reptiles, up to 20 feet long and over a ton in weight. They can swim in both saltwater and freshwater, which is unusual. Very aggressive during breeding season. They kill several people every year. He pointed further down the beach. And then there are the sharks. Great whites, tiger sharks, bull sharks. Bull sharks are particularly interesting because they can also swim in freshwater. They've been found hundreds of miles up rivers. Very territorial and aggressive. One of the warriors pulled up Earth data on his device. This says humans have special areas for swimming with sharks. For recreation, Jake nodded. Cage diving, yeah. Some people think it's fun. Not my thing, but to each their own. The Velcarin spent the next hour staring at the peaceful-looking ocean with growing horror. Every beautiful thing apparently wanted to kill them in a unique and terrifying way. The fact that humans swam here, brought their children here, and considered this a vacation destination was incomprehensible. That afternoon, Jake took them inland to a rainforest area. The change in environment was immediate. The temperature rose, and humidity wrapped around them like a wet blanket. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, calls of birds and insects that created an alien symphony. "Watch where you put your hands," Jake said, as they hiked along a narrow trail. "Lots of spiders here. Also snakes in the trees sometimes. And don't lean against that tree, why not?" Swiftblade asked. "That's a jimpy," Jake explained, also called a suicide plant, covered in tiny silica hairs that inject neurotoxin. The pain is described as being sprayed with hot acid and electrocuted at the same time. It can last for months. We had a researcher who brushed against one and said the pain was so bad that he had to be tied to a hospital bed. There are stories of people and animals going mad from the pain and killing themselves. The warriors gave the innocent-looking plant a wide berth. They encountered a cassowary an hour into the hike. The large bird stood in the middle of the trail, easily 5 feet tall with a distinctive casque on its head. Its feathers were black, and it watched them with sharp eyes. "Do not move," Jake said quietly. "Do not make eye contact. This is a They're one of the most dangerous birds in the world. They have claws that can slice you open like a knife. If it charges, get behind a tree." "It is a bird," Krell whispered back. "We have faced creatures 100 times its size." "Yeah, well, this bird has killed people," Jake replied. "It can jump and kick with both feet at once. Those claws are 4 inches long and sharp as razors. Just stay still and let it pass." The cassowary regarded them for what felt like an eternity. Finally, it made a deep booming sound that vibrated through the warrior's armor and walked off into the forest. "A bird," Swiftblade said once it was gone. "We were threatened by a bird. Welcome to Australia," Jake said cheerfully. The next week took them to South America. They landed in Brazil and immediately encountered a new ecosystem, filled with new dangers. Dr. Sophie Lane met them at the research station. A compact woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and the kind of enthusiasm that made the Velkarin nervous. "Oh good, you're here," Sophie said. "I've prepared a demonstration of some of our local species. This will be educational." She led them to a laboratory where various containers held different creatures. The first was a small frog, brilliantly colored in shades of blue and black. It sat peacefully on a branch in its terrarium. "This is a poison dart frog," Sophie explained. "Specifically, the blue poison dart frog. Isn't it beautiful?" The indigenous peoples used to coat their arrows and blow darts with the toxin from these frogs. A single frog has enough poison to kill 10 grown humans. The poison blocks nerve signals to muscles, causing paralysis and heart failure. She said all of this with a bright smile while holding the terrarium up for them to see better. The Velkarin stared at the tiny, beautiful creature that could kill them all. "We have several species here," Sophie continued, moving to the next container. "This is the golden poison frog, even more toxic than the blue one. Just touching it could be dangerous. The poison is so potent that there's no If you get a lethal dose, you're just going to die, usually within minutes." Krell watched her handle these containers with casual confidence. "How do you study such creatures without dying?" "Carefully," Sophie replied, "and with a lot of respect for what they can do. The poison doesn't work through their skin unless you have cuts or open wounds, so gloves and proper handling keep us safe." Mostly she moved them to another section. "Now, this is one of my favorites. The Brazilian wandering spider, also called the banana spider because they sometimes hide in banana shipments. It's considered one of the most venomous spiders in the world. Very aggressive too. Unlike most spiders that run away, these will rear up and attack if threatened." The spider in the container was large and hairy, its legs spanning several inches. As if sensing their attention, it raised its front legs in a threat display. The venom causes intense pain, inflammation, and in males can cause priapism, which is a persistent and painful erection that can last for hours, Sophie continued. "But the real problem is the paralysis and respiratory failure. Without treatment, death can occur." One of the Velkarin warriors made a sound of distress. "Why do you keep these creatures?" "Research," Sophie said. "We're studying their venom for potential medical applications. Many medicines come from natural toxins. Also, they're important parts of the ecosystem. Just because something is dangerous doesn't mean it's not valuable." Over the next few days they learned about bullet ants, whose sting was described as causing the most intense pain in the insect kingdom, like being shot with a bullet. They saw electric eels that could generate enough voltage to stun a horse. They learned about piranhas, vampire bats, and the parasitic kandiru fish that reportedly could swim up a urethra. Each new piece of information added to the growing realization that Earth was not just dangerous, it was comprehensively, creatively, almost enthusiastically dangerous in ways that seemed designed to cause maximum suffering. The breaking point came in Africa. Jake had handed them off to another guide, a woman named Claire Patterson who ran safari expeditions. She took them to observe lions from a safe distance. Lions are apex predators here, Claire explained. They hunt in coordinated packs and can take down prey much larger than themselves. But honestly, they're not the biggest concern. Krell perked up at this. Finally, a creditor of appropriate size and danger. The Velcarin warriors requested to return to Meridian Point after 5 weeks instead of the agreed 8. They sent the message directly to War Prince Dexel, and the tone was markedly different from their initial confident reports. Krell did not cite cowardice or failure in his request. He simply stated that they had learned what they needed to learn, and that Earth had proven its point. Commander Lisa Grant arrived at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center outside Sydney on the morning the Velcarin were scheduled to leave. She had been on Earth coordinating various aspects of the exchange program, but this final meeting was important. The center was a sprawling facility where injured and orphaned animals were cared for until they could be released back into the wild. Jake had brought the Velcarin warriors here as their last stop, and they stood in the courtyard looking exhausted. Not physically, their armor showed no damage and their bodies were unharmed. But something in their posture had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a wary vigilance that made them check their surroundings constantly. Commander Grant, Krell said, giving a slight bow that would have been unthinkable 5 weeks ago. We are ready to return to Meridian Point. In a moment, Lisa said, there's someone I want you to meet first. She led them inside the rehabilitation center where Amy Richardson was preparing food for the animals. Amy was in her 30s, with short blonde hair and arms covered in scars that told stories of years working with wildlife. She looked up as they entered and smiled warmly. Hey Lisa, she said, these must be our visitors from space. Jake told me about them. Amy runs this facility, Lisa explained. She works with some of the animals you've been learning about. Amy wiped her hands on her apron and gestured for them to follow. Come on, I'll show you some of the rescues we're currently treating. She led them through the facility with the casual confidence of someone completely at home among creatures that could kill her. In one enclosure, a saltwater crocodile lay basking under a heat lamp. It was a juvenile, only about 6 feet long, recovering from injuries sustained in a fight with a larger male. This is Charlie, Amy said, entering the enclosure with a bucket of fish. The crocodile's eyes tracked her movement, but it remained still. He's almost ready to be released back into the wild. Just need to make sure his injuries have healed properly. She approached the massive reptile and ran her hand along its back while examining the healing wounds. The Velcarin watched in stunned silence as this unarmed human touched a predator that could easily kill her. Aren't you afraid? Swiftblade asked of Charlie. Nah, we have an understanding, Amy replied. I respect what he is, and I don't do anything stupid. That's the key to working with dangerous animals. Respect and knowledge. Fear without understanding gets you killed. Understanding without respect gets you killed. You need both. She led them to another area where a brown snake was being kept temporarily after being found in someone's garage. Amy opened the container with practiced ease and used a hook to gently lift the snake for examination. This is one of the most venomous snakes in the world, she said. But look how beautiful it is. See the way it moves. That's millions of years of evolution creating a perfect predator. I've been bitten twice in my career, both times my own fault for getting careless. Spent time in the hospital both times. But I survived because I knew what to do and got treatment fast. Krell stared at the scars on her arms. Those are from animal attacks. Mostly, Amy said. This one is from a cassowary kick when I was helping relocate one away from a residential area. This one is from a spider bite that got infected. These are from various other creatures having bad days. It happens when you work with wildlife. They're not being malicious. They're just being what they are. She carefully placed the snake back in its container. That's what people from off-world don't seem to understand about Earth. Yes, we have dangerous animals. Lots of them. But they're not monsters. They're just animals trying to survive, same as anything else. The fact that they can kill us is almost incidental. They didn't evolve to hunt humans specifically. We just happen to be vulnerable to the same things that make them successful predators. Lisa stepped forward. Amy, can you show them the exhibit room? Oh sure, Amy said, leading them to another building. The exhibit room was filled with displays showing Earth's prehistoric creatures. Massive skeletons and reconstructions filled the space, creatures that dwarfed even the Velcarin warriors. A Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton dominated the center of the room, its jaws wide enough to swallow a human whole. This is what Earth used to be like, Lisa said, walking among the displays. These are the creatures our ancestors lived alongside. Megalodon sharks up to 60 feet long with jaws that could crush a whale. Terror birds that stood 10 feet tall and could run at high speeds while hunting. Saber-toothed cats with teeth designed to pierce through thick hide and muscle. Giant short-faced bears that weighed over a ton and could run faster than a horse. She stopped in front of a display showing early humans, small figures with simple tools facing down massive predators. Our ancestors survived this with nothing but stone tools, fire, and their brains. No armor, no advanced weapons, just intelligence, cooperation, and an absolute refusal to give up. Krell approached the display slowly. What happened to these creatures? Us, Lisa said simply. Climate change played a role, but humans were the main factor in many extinctions. We didn't outfight them in direct combat. We outlasted them. We hunted them more efficiently than they hunted us. We changed the environment faster than they could adapt. We became the apex predator not because we were the strongest or the fastest or the most venomous, but because we were the most persistent and adaptable. She pulled up holographic displays showing various aspects of human hunting and survival. Videos of persistence hunting played, showing humans simply following prey for hours under the hot sun until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. That's what humans do, Lisa continued. We don't give up, ever. An antelope can outrun us in a sprint, but we can keep jogging for hours. We just follow and follow and follow until the prey is too exhausted to continue. Then we close in for the kill. It's not dramatic or honorable by Valkyrian standards, but it works. She showed them footage of humans in extreme environments, freedivers descending to impossible depths on a single breath, mountain climbers ascending peaks without oxygen in temperatures that would kill most species in minutes, endurance runners covering hundreds of miles over days without stopping, humans surviving in deserts, in Arctic wastelands, in dense jungles, in every environment Earth offered. Every human child grows up learning that almost everything on our planet can kill us, Lisa said. So we teach them to check their shoes for spiders, to stay away from certain areas, to recognize dangerous plants and animals, to respect the ocean, the forest, the desert. We teach them that Earth is dangerous, and the price of carelessness is death. She pulled up statistics and data, displaying them in the air between them. Snake bites kill thousands of people every year. Crocodile attacks, spider bites, jellyfish stings, animal diseases. We lose people constantly to the wildlife on our own planet, and we keep living here anyway. We keep swimming in those oceans. We keep hiking through those forests. We keep existing in an environment that never stops trying to kill us. Swiftblade spoke up quietly. Why might not simply eliminate these creatures? You have the technology. You could make Earth safe. Amy laughed at that, a short bark of sound. Safe, Earth will never be safe. That's not how nature works. And besides, we need these creatures. The ecosystem would collapse without them. The spiders eat the insects that would otherwise destroy our crops. The snakes control rodent populations. The predators keep herbivore populations in check. Every creature, no matter how dangerous, plays a role. And more than that, Lisa added, they made us what we are. You can't separate humanity from Earth. This planet shaped us, molded us, forced us to become smarter and more adaptable just to survive. Remove the danger, and you remove the crucible that forged us. We are products of this world, and that will always be part of who we are. She looked at each Valkyrian warrior in turn. You asked what predators Earth has. The answer is everything, including us. Humans are the most successful predator species on this planet, and this planet produces some of the most successful predators in the known galaxy. We didn't survive Earth by being weak, Champion Krell. We survived by being absolutely relentless. Krell stood silent for a long moment, processing everything he had learned over the past 5 weeks. Finally, he spoke. We came here believing we would prove Valkyrian superiority. We thought humans were weak because they seemed soft and fragile compared to us. We believed Earth could not possibly challenge us because you made no great boasts about its dangers. He gestured at the prehistoric displays around them. We were fools. We measured danger by size and spectacle. We never considered that the most dangerous predator might be the one intelligent enough to understand and coexist with all the others, or that a species might be strong precisely because their world gave them no choice but to become strong. Earth is a death world, Swiftblade said, and the other warriors made sounds of agreement. Meridian Point felt different when Lisa returned. The trading station was the same physical place, with its rotating sections and diverse crowds of alien species conducting business. But something in the atmosphere had shifted. Word had spread about the Valkyrian warriors and their experience on Earth. Other species were watching the humans with new eyes. a mixture of curiosity and wariness replacing the previous dismissal. The formal negotiation room had been prepared for the final trade discussions. War Prince Dexel stood at the head of the conference table, but his posture lacked its earlier confidence. He had spent the past week reviewing every piece of footage and every report his warriors had sent back. The documented evidence of Earth's dangers had been shared throughout the Valkyrian command structure, and the reactions ranged from disbelief to horror. Champion Krell and his warriors stood beside their prince, and the change in them was obvious to anyone who looked. They carried themselves differently now, with a careful awareness that had not been there before. Their eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, a habit formed from weeks of checking for threats that might fit in the palm of a hand. Commander Grant Dexel said as Lisa entered with her delegation. His voice was formal but carried a note of genuine respect that had been absent from their first meeting. Thank you for facilitating this educational exchange. It has been illuminating in ways we did not anticipate. Lisa took her seat across from him. I trust your warriors returned safely and in good health. Physically unharmed, Dexel confirmed, though I suspect their perspective on many things has been permanently altered. Champion Krell has filed a report that I initially thought must be exaggerated. Then I watched the footage. I have since shown it to my military advisors, who are currently reassessing several of our strategic assumptions. He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. We were fools, Commander. We measured your worth by our standards, which was a critical error. We saw that humans lacked our armor, our size, our obvious weapons. We concluded you must be weak. We never considered that your lack of natural defenses might indicate something far more significant. Peter Hughes, Lisa's chief negotiator, spoke up. And what would that be? That humans had to become intelligent, cooperative, and absolutely relentless simply to survive childhood on their own world, Lexel said. When I watch footage of human children playing in areas where multiple species of venomous creatures live, when I see parents bringing infants to beaches where invisible jellyfish can kill in minutes, when I observe the casual way humans discuss creatures that would devastate military units on other worlds, I begin to understand something crucial. He leaned forward, his multiple eyes focused on Lisa. Humans are not weak despite their fragile bodies. Humans are terrifying because their fragile bodies survived Earth. Krell stepped forward and placed a data device on the table. Commander Grant, with your permission, I would like to share some observations from our time on your world. These have been compiled into a report for the Valkyrian Empire, but I believe they are relevant to these negotiations. Lisa nodded, and Krell activated the device. Holographic text and images appeared above the table, visible to everyone present. Earth operates under what we are now calling Death World protocols, Krell began. The biodiversity is extreme, with millions of species competing for resources in a relatively confined space. This has led to an evolutionary arms race, where survival mechanisms have become extraordinarily sophisticated and deadly. He pulled up images of various Earth creatures. Venom is so common on Earth that humans have categorized dozens of types, each with different effects and requiring different treatments. Many creatures possess venom for which no antivenom exists. Humans simply accept that encountering these creatures might result in death, and they teach their children to avoid them. Disease transmission is rampant, he continued. Microscopic organisms cause illnesses that can kill entire populations. Humans have spent centuries fighting these invisible enemies and have only recently gained any real defense against them. Yet they persisted through countless plagues and pandemics that would have ended most civilizations. Swiftblade took over the presentation. The environmental extremes are equally hostile. Earth's weather patterns include hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, and temperature swings that would require specialized equipment on most worlds. Humans live in all these areas with minimal protection. We documented humans surfing during storms, hiking through blizzards, and living in deserts where daytime temperatures can kill in hours. The holographic display shifted to show various human activities. Humans swimming with sharks in protective cages. Humans rock climbing sheer cliffs with only ropes for safety. Humans running marathons through Death Valley in summer heat. Each image showed humans deliberately putting themselves in danger, either for sport or simply as part of daily life. But the most significant finding, Krell said, is how this environment shaped human psychology and society. Humans do not see their world as unusually dangerous because they have nothing to compare it to. To them, checking shoes for spiders before wearing them is not paranoia but common sense. Teaching children about venomous creatures is basic education. Living alongside predators is normal. Dexel watched the presentation with rapt attention. When it finished, He sat back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. Commander Grant, I have a question that has troubled me since reviewing these reports. Are there any predators on Earth that humanity actually fears? Lisa considered the question carefully. We respect all of them. Fear is different from respect, though. If I had to name something that consistently kills more people than it should, given how much we know about it, I would say hippos. They are territorial, aggressive, and kill more people in Africa than lions or crocodiles. They look slow and harmless, but they are extremely dangerous. She paused, then added, but honestly, War Prince, the most dangerous predator on Earth has always been other humans. We have killed more of our own species than all the other predators combined. Our history is filled with wars, conflicts, and violence on scales that dwarf anything the natural world has done to us. If you want to understand what makes humans dangerous, look at what we have done to each other. The room fell silent at that. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. The idea that a species' greatest threat came from within was disturbing to many cultures. But you have moved past that. Vexel asked. Your world is unified now. Yes, mostly, Lisa said. We still have conflicts and disagreements, but we have learned to resolve most of them without violence. It took us a long time to get here, and the lessons were painful. But we are working on it. After all, if we survived everything Earth threw at us over millions of years, surely we can survive each other. The negotiations that followed were remarkably smooth. The earlier tensions had evaporated, replaced by a mutual respect that made compromise easier. The Velkarin had come to Meridian Point expecting to dominate the discussions through force of reputation. Instead, they found themselves negotiating with a species they now recognized as equals, perhaps more than equals in some respects. The trade agreement that emerged was fair to both sides. Earth would provide certain agricultural products and medical research, areas where human expertise with hostile environments gave them advantages. The Velkarin would provide advanced materials and manufacturing techniques. Both sides would benefit, and neither side would dominate. As the formal signing ceremony concluded, Lexel approached Lisa privately. The other delegates were celebrating, but the War Prince seemed to have something on his mind. Commander Grant, I must ask something that has bothered me since watching the footage of your world, he said quietly. How do you people sleep at night, knowing that at any moment, something small enough to hide in your bedding could kill you? Lisa smiled. You get used to it, and honestly, most of the dangerous things on Earth want nothing to do with humans. They are not hunting us specifically, they are just living their lives, and sometimes those lives intersect with ours in unfortunate ways. The key is knowledge and respect. Know what can hurt you, respect its capabilities, and take appropriate precautions. But you seem so calm about it all, Dexel insisted. My warriors, trained soldiers who have faced down charging megafauna on hostile worlds, were terrified of creatures they could crush with one hand. How do humans remain sane? Because it is home, Lisa said simply. You do not fear your home, even when you respect its dangers. You learn its rhythms, understand its moods, and adapt to its requirements. Earth is dangerous, yes, but it is also beautiful. It is where we evolved, where our ancestors fought and died to give us life. Every human alive is descended from an unbroken chain of survivors stretching back millions of years. That is not something to fear. That is something to honor. She looked out the observation window at the stars. Your people have conquered 15 worlds. That is impressive, but humans only have one world, and it has been trying to kill us since we first stood upright. The fact that we are still here, that we thrived despite everything, that we not only survived but built civilization in one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy,